War. It's fought over power, land, resources, and survival. But in 1932, Australia waged war against an enemy unlike any other. Emus. Yes, you heard that right. The Australian military, armed with machine guns, went to war with 20,000 giant birds that were destroying farmland. They had soldiers, strategy, and thousands of bullets. The emus, just legs and feathers. And yet, against all odds, the emus won. Let's go back to where it all started. After World War I, Australia's government rewarded returning soldiers by giving them farmland in Western Australia. But there was a problem. This land wasn't ideal for farming. The soil was rough, the climate was unforgiving, and growing crops was already a challenge. Then in 1929, the Great Depression hit. Wheat prices crashed. The government promised financial support to farmers, but those promises were never kept. Desperate for survival, farmers planted even more wheat, hoping to make up for their losses. But what they didn't expect was an invasion. Out of nowhere, tens of thousands of emus, large flightless birds native to Australia, stormed the farmland. These birds had just finished their breeding season and were migrating towards the coast. But when they found open fields of wheat, fresh water, and no natural predators, they decided to stay. The emus ate the crops, trampled the fields, and tore down fences, allowing rabbits to invade and cause even more destruction. For struggling farmers, this was the last straw. Their livelihoods were being wiped out, and they needed a solution, fast. So they turned to the Australian government and demanded help, and the government responded with machine guns. In October 1932, the Minister of Defence, Sir George Pearce, approved a full military operation against the emus. The plan was simple. Deploy soldiers with 2 Lewis machine guns, provide 10,000 rounds of ammunition. Eliminate the emus. The army sent Major G.P.W. Meredith and 2 soldiers to lead the attack. They were confident, well-armed, and ready for battle. After all, how hard could it be to take down some birds? The first battle took place on November 2nd, 1932. A group of 50 emus was spotted near the farms. The soldiers set up their machine guns. They took aim and opened fire. But something unexpected happened. The emus dodged the bullets. Instead of running in a straight line, they zigzagged in random directions. The gunners struggled to track their movements, and the first attack resulted in only a handful of kills. The soldiers were stunned. These birds weren't just fast, they were tactical. The next day, a larger flock of about 1,000 emus was spotted near a dam. This time, the soldiers set up an ambush. As the emus got closer, they waited for the perfect moment and then unleashed a full barrage of gunfire. But then, the machine gun jammed. By the time they fixed it, most of the emus had escaped. Days passed, and the pattern continued. The emus seemed to learn from every attack. They split into smaller groups, making it impossible for the soldiers to wipe them out all at once. Army reports even noted that the emus had leaders, larger birds that acted as lookouts, warning others when danger approached. Major Meredith, desperate for success, tried a new strategy. He mounted a machine gun on the back of a truck and ordered his men to chase the emus down. It was a disaster. The truck couldn't keep up with the birds, the terrain was too rough, and the gunner couldn't aim properly. At one point, a soldier fell off the truck during an attack. By November 8th, just 6 days into the war, the military had fired 2,500 bullets and killed only about 200 emus. At that point, the government called off the operation. The official report was humiliating. Australia had gone to war with giant birds and lost. The emus had won the battle. But the war wasn't over yet. As the emu problem continued, farmers begged the government for a second military campaign. This time, the military tried to be more strategic. They focused on smaller, more manageable groups of emus instead of massive flocks. Between November 13th and December 10th, the soldiers killed about 1,000 emus. It was an improvement, but it wasn't enough. There were still tens of thousands of emus roaming free, destroying crops. By the end of the war, the final statistics were staggering. 9,860 bullets fired, 986 confirmed kills, an estimated 2,500 wounded emus that later died. That's about 10 bullets per emu. And yet, despite all that, the emus still outnumbered the farmers. Major Meredith, the man who led the campaign, later admitted, "If we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world." The Great Emu War became a national joke, making headlines around the world. The British press mocked Australia for losing a war against birds. In Parliament, politicians sarcastically asked if the soldiers would be given medals.